Good morning, Brother Rima. So, our question is, how can we encourage people to seek and rely on God not only in times of trouble, but also during times of peace and prosperity?
Yeah, I think that's the trend there. Like, we only reach out to God when bad things happen, right? No matter if it's a trial that we're going through or if a disaster happens. But it's common. We see that right from the beginning of Scripture. And particularly, we look at Exodus 14, when Moses parted the sea, and we saw the people there, the children, call out to God when Pharaoh was chasing after them. And so they were crying out to God, right? And then we also go to Exodus 20 when the 10 Commandments were given. And again, they cried to Moses to speak to God on their behalf. When they saw the thunders, the lightning, the smoke on the mountain, the noise of the trumpet. And so even from there, even from Jonah as well, we go further into the Old Testament. We see Jonah disobey God. He just didn't want to listen. And then what happened to him when he went the other way? The boat was flipped over and he went into the sea. The whale, or what people say is a whale, but the big fish swallowed him up, and then he cries out to the Lord. And so it's a common theme that people only reach out to God during those kind of times. Even in the New Testament, we see the multitude following Jesus, only to be fed, only to be healed. But when God calls them, they're nowhere to be seen. And so we kind of treat God like a fire exit, right? We only go to Him in our times of emergencies. But besides that, we don't want to be used. But some scripture that come to mind as I think about praying to God or asking Him for things when when we're in need, is Matthew 7 verse 7. It says to ask and it shall be given to you. But the thing is, we don't ask according to His will, right? So if you go into John 14:14, it takes it even further. So I'll just read John chapter 14 verse 14. And this is where many, not just religious people, but even the world, only they stick to this verse. So John chapter 14 verse 14, it says this: if you shall ask anything in my name, I will do it. So people take this out of context, thinking that you can ask for, to win the lotto. First of all, you shouldn't be gambling, so why would you tell God to answer my prayer for something you shouldn't be doing? But if we go back one verse, and verse 13, this is how we get the context of it. It says, and whatsoever ye shall ask in my name, that will I do, and here's the key part, that the Father may be glorified. So the things we ask God, it needs to be lined up to His will. It needs to, glorify Him. And so when we think about what's happening today, with the tragedies that are happening, with disasters, people are crying out to the Lord, but this is their only time that they reach out to Him. But it's not going to glorify God because they only reach out to Him at this time. But if we give our lives to Him, and we truly seek Him, then He says He will answer us that God the Father may be glorified. And so hopefully that answers your question.